Emma stood in the sensing hub, which looked like a giant flower from the outside, but was full of high tech gadgets on the inside. This is probably the most important thing that set us apart from the failed colonies, she told a group of new specialists. The aliens use technology to get away from Xylos. We use it to get closer to each other. She pointed to a wall of screens that showed live data. These sensors don't find threats to get rid of them. They find patterns in ecosystem to help us work together better. Look at this. One screen showed chemical levels from a part of the forest. Pine stalker returned around 6 months ago is showing signs of mating based on these pheromone levels. That means it will be very terrestrial for the next 2 weeks. This information goes straight to our movement coordinators, who change all the route patterns to stay away from that area. Another screen showed data about earthquakes, small vibrations in the ground in the Sector 7. That pattern is similar to how tunnel dwellers move. These are creatures that live underground but come up to hunt. Our scent viewers can mix together chemicals that make us smell like the mineral deposit that tunnel dwellers stay away from. Raj was excited to enter the hub. You need to see this, Emma. We've been looking at how the stripped runners, the prey herds we based our survival plan on, communicate with each other. They don't just use smell and movement, they're using infrasound, which is vibrations that people can't hear. Emma's eyes got bigger. Can we do that again? We're already working on it. If we could use infrasound communication, we could plan our movements even better. And more importantly, we could send signals that predators naturally link to not prey. This was a big change in how technology was used. The alien colonies had technology that was meant to help them take over, like shields, weapons, and sensors that could find enemies. The technology in the human colony was meant to promote peace. For example, there were sensors that helped people understand their neighbors, tools that helped people blend in instead of stand out, and communication systems that made working together easy. Tom Wright's engineering teams had made what they called living structures. These buildings weren't just hidden, they were made from xylose plant that had been genetically changed so that people could live in them without harming the environment. Look at this, Tom said with pride as he showed Marcus a new apartment building. The walls take in light and turn it into oxygen. The roots clean our water and put nutrients back into the soil. The structure itself makes smell markers that say this area is occupied by non aggressive species. Predators see it as just another interesting plant arrangement from the outside. Marcus ran his hand along the wall. It felt warm and alive. The Zenthari would have thought this was basic. The Orcs would have laughed at how weak it was, Tom said, and they're all dead. While we're doing well, the colony's way of communicating was also very new. They didn't use radio towers or satellite networks that would mess up Xylos electromagnetic patterns. Instead, they made a nerve network out of organic cables grown from conductive plant fibers that sent information through chemical and electrical signals that were similar to the planet's natural communication channels. Lisa Chen, who had become the colony's expert on how predators act, used this system to plan what she called safety dances. Predators on Xylos don't just use sight and smell, she said during a training session. They can feel rhythm, pattern, and group movement. Predators can tell when prey animals are stressed or out of order. But when there is peace, predators often ignore prey, even if they can see them and are easy to catch. She showed how to move a group of colonists through an area with a lot of predators while keeping them all in perfect sync. Their steps were in time with each other. Their breathing was in sync. At the same time, their heads turned. A group of predators watched them go by but didn't try to attack. The people worked together so well. They didn't send out the weak and isolated signals that started hunts. They had their biggest problem 14 months into colonization. A huge creature called a Titan moth, which was like a dinosaur and a tank, was over 50 feet tall, had armor plating, and jaws that could swallow a car. It took over the colony's central living area. This wasn't like sending other predators in a different direction. Titan moths didn't hunt very often, but when they did, they killed everything. Also, they were very protective of their territory. Once they took over an area, they didn't leave very often. Evacuate, David said, right away, at the emergency meeting. We moved the whole colony. We made the buildings so that they would only last for a short time. But Emma shook her head. Check out the numbers. This Titan moth is old and probably close to the end of its life. It picked this area because it has a lot of resources and is easy to defend. If we leave, we will have lost 14 months of work on integration. Now, every predator in the area knows how we act. If we move, we have to start over with the new top predators that don't know we're part of the ecosystem. So, what do we do now? Sarah asked. We can't change the direction of something that big. We can't avoid it. It will destroy our buildings just by walking through. We can't fight it. That's for sure. Grace looked like she was thinking. What if we don't do any of those? What if we give it a hand? Everyone looked at her. Think about it, Grace said again. It's old, probably hurt, and looking for a safe place to spend the rest of its life. What if we aren't a threat to its territory, but instead help it? What if we make its life easier? You want to befriend a creature that could kill us all by accident? Not befriend, integrate, Marcus said. Become a part of its territory in a way that helps both of you, like the birds that cleaned crocodiles' teeth. It was crazy. It was also the only thing they could do beside giving up everything they had worked for. They spent the next week obsessively watching how the Titan moth acted. Emma's team figured out how it ate, when it slept, and how it moved around its territory. They found out that it was hurt after all. It had an old wound on its back leg that hadn't healed properly, probably from a fight over territory years ago. Raj made a topical treatment that wasn't exactly medicine. It was a compound made from Xylos plants that would reduce inflammation and attract cleaning organisms that were native to the planet and helped with healing. The question was, how do you give medicine to an animal that could kill you with a simple twitch? They went with the most risky and trusting option. They would just do it in front of everyone without lying or trying to hide. Marcus was in charge of 20 colonists, including Sarah, Emma, and Raj. They slowly moved toward the sleeping Titan moth, staying in perfect formation and sending out every non threatening signal they could think of. Each of the creature's eyes, which were the size of dinner plates, followed them. The big head rose a little bit. If they made one mistake or ran away in a panic, they would all die. Raj kept the treatment compound in a basket made from plants that are native to the area. They got to the hurt leg. Now, Marcus whispered. They started putting the compound on the wound, moving quickly but smoothly, with their breathing and movements in sync. They acted like it was just another job, like cleaning a piece of equipment or grooming a horse. The Titan moth was keeping an eye on them. It could have killed them right away, but their body language said helpful. Their smell said not dangerous, and their action said we belong here with you. After 20 long minutes, they finished and left, still moving together and still calm. The Titan moth put its head back down on the ground. They did the treatment again every few days for the next month. The wound started to heal, and something amazing happened. The Titan moth let them move around freely in its territory. More than that, other predators started to stay away from the Titans' moth resting places, making safe zones for the colonists. They had done it. They had turned the region's most dangerous predator into an unintentional protector. After 2 years, the colony had become a model for how communities can adapt and survive. Earth had been keeping an eye on their progress through automated reports, and the results were shocking. Grace wrote down a full report for the archives. What we've done here goes beyond just surviving on a death world. We've made a working model for a different kind of human society, one that values group adaptation over individual success, integration over domination, and understanding over control. The main point is that when you share your weakness and admit them, they become strength. In isolation, every member of this colony is completely defenseless. But as a whole, we've become stronger in ways that armed fortresses and advanced weapons never did. The alien colonies failed because they came to Xylos with a mindset of separation, us versus the environment. They thought that the only way to survive was to use better force or technology. But Xylos doesn't care about power. It reacts to flow, integration, and finding your place in the web of life that already exists. Humanity's supposed weakness, our adaptability, our need for community, and our ability to change our behavior and thinking based on circumstances turned out to be our greatest strength here. We didn't try to change our laws to fit us. We changed who we are to fit our laws. It was already becoming clear how the practical uses would work. Climate change, resource depletion, and social fragmentation were all the problems that Earth was facing. The Xylos model gave us new information that we didn't expect. What if communities on Earth used the same ideas of radical interdependence? What if they made sharing networks that got rid of waste instead of fighting over limited resources? What if, instead of putting up walls to protect themselves from threat, they tried to understand and work with problems? A message from Earth asked for more information about their social structure. Scientists wanted to know what psychological factors made such close cooperation possible. Sociologists wanted to look at how they kept their social ties strong without a traditional hierarchy. Engineers were interested in how their organic technology worked together. But the colonists didn't want to be studied. They were too busy with their life. Sarah, now one of the colony's top scent weavers, taught new specialists with a level of confidence she'd never had on Earth. She told them, the most important thing to understand is that every scent maker you make isn't just chemistry, it's talking to each other. You're telling everyone in the ecosystem a story about who you are, who we are, where we fit in, and what we need. If you get it wrong, you put everyone in danger, not just yourself. If you do it right, you help write the story of how people lived on Xylos. The young experts paid close attention. There was no room for half hearted work here. Everyone knew that every task was important for survival. Tom Wright had added what he called ecosystem services to his program for building homes. These buildings didn't just hold people, they also helped the environment around them. Some buildings drew in pollinators that plants in the area needed. Some made patterns of shade that helped species that are sensitive to temperature to do well. The colonists were no longer just passive residents of Xylos. They were now active participants in its ecology. The aliens saw themselves as above the ecosystem. Tom told a researcher from Earth who was visiting through video call, we see ourselves as part of it. That one change in point of view made everything different. 5 years after arriving on Xylos, the colony had grown, but not in numbers. It had become more integrated. They had learned how to live peacefully in one of the galaxy's most dangerous places. Marcus, who was now older and more withered but very happy, stood in the circle of people who had just arrived from Earth. These were 50 colonists who had asked to be placed on Xylos. After hearing about their success, he smiled a little and said, "Welcome to the Death World. We don't call it that anymore. We call it home. But before you really join us, you need to know what you're agreeing to. You're giving up your own survival. When you join our community, your life becomes everyone's life, and everyone's life becomes yours. You will have a role, a specific job, and if you don't do it right, people will die. Not might die, will die. You're giving up the illusion of control. You can't have weapon. You can't make a shelter for yourself when you're scared or stressed. You can't shut yourself off from others. You have to trust people you just met with your life every day. You're giving up the idea of being in charge of nature. The animals here aren't your enemies. They are not things that get in your way. They're all part of the same ecosystem, and your job is to find your place among them, not above them. In return, you'll experience something very few people ever have: total community, not the shallow cooperation of a workplace or the casual ties of a neighborhood, but a deep, necessary survival level interdependence. You will know for sure that you matter, that your contribution is unique, and that you are valued not for what you own or achieve, but just for being a part of this whole. He stopped to let that sink in. The question is, are you ready to be that open? Are you ready to put all your faith in that? The new colonist nodded one by one. Sarah stood at the edge of the circle and felt a surge of pride. This was now her home. It wasn't the buildings or the land that held them together. It was the web of relationships, the complicated dance of survival, and the deep trust that held them all together. A shadow cat walked by a group of people. No one moved. It was just a part of the scenery now, something they saw every day. Emma walked over to Sarah with a data pad in her hand. "I've been looking at 5 years worth of survival data. Always. Our death rate is lower than that of any human settlement in the last century, even the safest city on earth. Statistically, we're safer on a death world with apex predators than people are in their own safe civilizations." Sarah laughed. "Because we stopped acting like we were safe and learned how to be safe." "That's right. The infrastructure that keeps people safe on Earth, but also keeps them apart from each other. Separation doesn't keep us safe, connection does." Cloney had a story circle that night, which had become a monthly tradition. Everyone came together, and people talked about things that had happened in the past month that showed what their community stood for. Grace was the first to speak at 12:13 p.m. "Last week, I was working in the sensing hub when I had a panic attack. It was something from my past and had nothing to do with Xylos. In less than 30 seconds, 5 people were next to me. They didn't ask any question. They didn't have to. They just stood around me, breathed with me, and, without saying a word, they reminded me that I wasn't alone. That's what we have made here." Other people told their stories. The movement coordinators timed it perfectly to keep them safe from a predator. 3 experts from different fields shared their knowledge, which led to a big step forward in growing plants. A new parent is thankful for the shared child care that made sure no one had to choose between their job and their child's need. As the stories came together, Marcus realized something deep. They had answered a question that had troubled people for thousands of years. What does it mean to be a person? What is our role in nature? They had found an answer on Xylos. People weren't meant to take over nature or live apart from it. They weren't meant to live on their own or in small groups. They were supposed to be what they are now, deeply connected, completely dependent on each other, and willing to be open in order to fit in. The alien civilizations failed because their advanced technology and superior strength couldn't fix a basic misunderstanding. Survival isn't about being the strongest, it's about figuring out where you fit in the web of life and doing your part. The gift of humanity wasn't strength or technology, it was the ability to change, the ability to understand, and, and the bravery to fully trust one another. As the story circle came to an end, and the colonists got ready for the bed, always in public areas, and always be able to be seen by each other, Sarah looked up at the three moons of Xylos, painting the sky in purple and silver. They had come here expecting to have to fight, to stay alive. They had learned how to live instead. Not just live, not just get by, but really live connected, with a purpose, and important to each other and the world around them. The world of death had become their home, and by learning how to live with it, they had learned what people could be like if they stopped fighting nature and started going with it. Before he fell asleep, Marcus had a simple but deep thought. We didn't conquer Xylos, we became a part of it, and that made all the difference.